used to look. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with them. They were jumping up and shaking down and paying the church up, and now they ain't shouting no more. It's because God is working on some stuff. And sometimes I learn an empty wagon makes a whole lot of noise. Sometimes it's not the people that are shouting that God is really working on. Sometimes it's the people that are sitting there ain't saying nothing that God is really moving from one place to the next. Touch your neighbor and say he's working. You have to understand that God, you may be seated, God is working on you. And when God starts to work on you, He will create a sifting in your life. He will cause things to go. He will cause things that cannot stay, because God understands that He's moving you to the next place. But God is not doing anything that you didn't ask Him to do. You are the fool that prayed the prayer and said, God, will you use me? I wish I had somebody to help me. Sometimes when you get a little bit more experience in the Lord, you learn what to pray and what not to pray. Because when you ask God to use you, God will say, okay, but that got to go, and that got to go, and that attitude got to go, and that sin got to go, and that little mess right there got to go, that relationship got to go, and stuff starts falling off your life, and you can't understand. But God said, all I'm doing is getting you ready for me to use you. Touch your neighbor and say, God gonna use you. God chooses to take us into a new season. And when He takes us into a new season, He normally will bring about a change. But the problem we have is not the changing of seasons. Every season is connected to a cycle. Now, I learned something. The problem is not that the season has not changed. The problem is you are stuck in a cycle. See, the problem that you have is that in the church world, we master the spiritual and we ignore the practical. I'm going to talk to somebody over here. In other words, there are some things that prayer won't change.
Yeah, talk, sir.
I'm sorry, did I offend anybody?
Talk.
There are some things that you can't dance your way out of. And you can't dance and balance your checkbook. I wish I had somebody to help me. It doesn't matter how much you pray, you're not going to lose those 40 pounds. I'm sorry, did I offend somebody? You're talking about God, let me lose this weight, and got a Twinkie in this hand and a donut in the other. And God is saying, are you sure you want me to help you lose that?
Help somebody, Evan.
We have to learn how to balance the spiritual and the practical.
You preaching, sir.
The saints, we become so spiritual that we think everything. See, sometimes you have to understand. I was writing the other day, and when I was getting ready to go to Atlanta, but we are creatures of habit. And so, out of my habit, I got on Interstate 85 South. Now, I live in Newton. Atlanta is Interstate 85.
North.
Oh, but I did an amazing thing. I began to pray. I said, Lord, please allow Atlanta to be in me. Then I started speaking in other tongues, and I said, God, I really need you to move Atlanta just for me. Pick up the whole city, 5 million people, put them in on 85 South. How did you know it didn't matter how much I prayed? Atlanta was still going to be where it was. In other words, the only way I could get to Atlanta, I had to get off of the road that I was on and get on a different path that would take me where I want to go.
You're preaching good, sir.
Your biggest battle is not with the devil. The Bible never said my people are destroyed because of the devil. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. See, God works on you Because God has to change your head. God has to get you to think about some different things, because basically the problem is we transfer our ignorance. Seasons are not transferable, but cycles are. Which means you can transfer that cycle of poverty to the next generation. You were broke, now your kids are broke. You were sick, now your kids are sick. You were divorced, now your kids are divorced. Because cycle simply means that you're walking in circles. You keep seeing the same thing over and over again. God sent me here tonight to help you understand that it's time for some of you to break some cycles. Which means that tonight, don't go home and pray. Go home and do a budget. You need to quit writing them fake checks. You know them checks that you say, Lord, I will write this check and please put the money in the bank, Jesus. Please put the money. I'm writing this check by faith, and then you don't have the money. And no, that's still what you're doing is that God will give you a brand new position. God will shift you from where you are to where He's calling you to be. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, God's giving you a new position. That's why the devil is fighting you. God's getting ready to take you a little bit higher. That's why the enemy is coming in like a flood. But tell your neighbor that if you hang on, God's going to put you where you couldn't put yourself. Look at somebody behind you and say, neighbor, I dare you to stay in place. Your blessing is on the way. If you were ready for God to do a brand new thing, why don't you stand up on your feet and begin to clap your hands and say, God put me in a brand new position. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, God's about to bless you, but you gotta fight through it. God's about to open doors, but you gotta fight through it. Somebody shout, shift God, shift God, move God, open the door, make the way. God's getting ready to take you on up. Why don't you grab your neighbor and shake your neighbor's hand and say, I don't know about you, but I feel like God's about to take you higher. God's about to elevate you. God's about to move you. God's about to shift you. Now if you know that this is your season and this is your time, I'll dare you to open up your mouth and let go a holler. Some of y'all ain't hollering. I'll dare you to open up your mouth. Let go a holler up in here. Grab your neighbor and say, neighbor, why don't you help me holler till I get my breakthrough? Why don't you help me holler until I get my turnaround? Why don't you help me holler until the joy come back? Now say, open up your mouth and holler. I gotta go to my seat. But last night, I was sitting over there by the musicians, sitting over there, minding my own business. Just came to enjoy the service. And the pastor said, stand up and recognize me and wave at me. And I waved at the people. But overnight, I'm going to come back and do that again. Last night, I was sitting over there, minding my own business, and the pastor said, stand up and wave at the people. I stood up and waved at the people, but overnight. I'm gonna do it one more time. Last night, I was sitting over there, minding my own business, and the pastor said, stand up and wave at the people. I stood up and waved at the people, but overnight, God shifted me from over there to right here. Overnight. Look at your neighbor and say, overnight, God's gonna move you from one place to the next place. Run and tell somebody, overnight, God's gonna shift you into a brand new home. Overnight, God's gonna break you out. Overnight, is there anybody here that needs an overnight miracle? Why don't you shout over? Somebody shout, shift, 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 shift. Tell your neighbor he's shifting you. Come on and praise it right there. Praise it for the overnight. Praise it right now. Nobody knows your name, but overnight, God's gonna do it. Right now, you're struggling in debt, but overnight, God's got a miracle. Right now, your marriage is messed all up, but somebody shout overnight. God knows how to reposition you. Listen to me. I want you to hear me.
Talk, sir.
While he was in Lodibar, the word Lodibar means a place where nothing grows. While he was in Lodibar, somebody was talking to somebody.
Remember them. Yeah.
Who was talking to somebody who was talking to somebody about Mephibosheth. While you were standing here with your hands lifted, somebody, I wish I had a church to run. Look at your neighbor and say, somebody is talking to somebody about you. Say, if you got any sense in your brain, you would open up your mouth and give God a praise for shifting you. Hey, come on and bless him. Come on and bless him. Now, listen. See, you have to understand. See, when you understand who you are, you understand the meaning of Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth means the one who breaks the family shame.
Help us, sir.
In other words, what will come after you will be nothing like what came before you. I wish I had a joke. You are the curse breaker. What worked in your mama and them? Lord, I wish I had somebody that don't mind praising me.